Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Writers Roundtable season previews. We are running through the NHL teams, and we are now on to the Vegas Golden Knights, and joined in by Ben Fisher, who covers the Golden Knights of Hockey Writers. Ben, how's it going?
All good. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great. The hockey season is, well, I mean, as we're recording, it's still about a month away, but who knows when you're watching this? You could be watching this and the season's going to start tomorrow. So we're going to preview the Vegas Golden Knights, who are, of course, the defending Stanley Cup champions. And they didn't change their team much. They had to trade Reilly Smith. I mean, that's a big part of the team. He's been there since the beginning. Now in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, that's probably the biggest change in the forward group. Defense didn't change at all. But that's basically their last season was they won the cup. So, I mean, that's all you really need to know. They did also lose Phil Kessel. I mean, I don't think he's coming back. He's a free agent. So, I mean, not really much changes additions wise, but let's start with the offense and talk about the loss of Reilly Smith. What do you think about that? Is that going to make a huge impact on this season? Because he was a major part of this team.
Well, it was an interesting choice. I mean, it was essentially taking Barbashev over Smith because,
Yeah.
as you noticed, Ivan Barbashev got the same 5-year per deal that Smith was on. So, I mean, it's a couple years younger, but I do think that the Golden Knights brass just were looking forward and sort of said to Reilly, "Thank you for your time," and deliberately decided to move on in this direction. I mean, Barbashev certainly had a better postseason than Reilly Smith did,
Mhm.
being on that insane top line with Eichel and Marchessault certainly helped. But I think that um, I think this was a calculated move that for everything that Reilly Smith has done, I think this was the best way to sort of remain cap compliant and minimize the losses on the offensive end. I think I saw that they still maintained about 93% of their goal total from last year's playoffs.
Mhm.
So certainly a key loss and a guy who's meant a lot to the franchise. But I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights haven't necessarily been a beacon of loyalty over the years, and I think
Yeah.
this was another sort of cold, calculated business move.
Yeah, and there's not many guys now that are left from that expansion draft team. I mean, Marchessault is definitely one that's been here for a while. I mean, won the Conn Smythe Trophy, was insane in the playoffs. What do you have for this season? Like for just the forward group in general, do you think they're strong enough to repeat as Stanley Cup champions? I mean, as they are right now, or do they still need to add something to potentially replace Reilly Smith? I mean, they don't have a lot of cap space to do so, but
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're hoping for some internal development, and I think we'll get into it. But there's certainly a couple young guys that are prime candidates to step up into larger offensive roles. I do think there's going to be a step back, but um, this was a team that, if you remember back, they weren't exactly a regular season juggernaut. I mean,
mhm.
they won the division, but they weren't um, they didn't take charge in the West necessarily, but this was a team that was clearly always built for the playoffs, and the fact that everything came together with health and being ready at the right time, then everything sort of broke the Golden Knights' way last spring,
Mhm.
and I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of a step back this season, but whether it's enough to knock them out of a lofty playoff spot, that seems doubtful at this point. So it might not be quite the same team, but I think they can anticipate pretty much picking up roughly where they left off.
Yeah, it'd also be good if Mark Stone could play a whole season. He only played
That's
43
a big
games
one.
last season, so it'd be great for him to play close to an 82 game, but he hasn't done that very often. I actually have not I don't know when. I don't think he has
No,
played
yeah, that's what
full
that's
82,
Ottawa
right?
did.
Back in Ottawa, yeah, his highest was 80, and that was back in 2014-15. So with the Golden Knights, his highest games were 65. So it'd be nice if he could play closer to that 82 game mark because he's a big part of this team, obviously the captain. So I was really good in the playoffs. So yeah, this group is definitely good, and Jack Eichel has not turned into, but has become what they thought he was going to be for this team as the top line center. So, yeah, I think they are well equipped to win the cup again. But without Reilly Smith, that's a big loss. So we'll see who kind of steps up to fill that role, right?
For sure. And just on Stone, you're absolutely right, Matt. I mean, I don't think anyone really believed that Mark necessarily had a full season in him, but I don't think
Mm.
last spring anyone thought that he was going to play all 22 games. And
Yeah.
the factor, I just wrote that he played significant minutes and was certainly the target of a couple of other teams, especially in that Dallas series. And the back held up, and he sort of toughed it out, and not only toughed it out, but as you mentioned, had a great postseason. So we'll see if that carries over, and we'll see if if the body holds out for more than half a season.
Yeah, like I said, it would be awesome if he could play almost the whole season. But we'll just have to see. All right, let's move to the defense again. No changes at all, really. I mean, you're returning a pretty strong defense already, and leading the way, Alex Pietrangelo, Martinez, McNabb, Theodore, Whitecloud, Haig. I mean, this is a really good defense. Do you think they're still good enough to win another cup, or is there any to make additions? Do you see what storylines do you got with the defense right now?
Yeah, I mean, it is mostly the status quo. At some point, both injury and potentially age-related decline do creep into the conversation, especially when it comes to guys like Petrangelo and especially Martinez. But I think this is a deep enough group that it should basically just be business as usual. And I mean, you'll have some questions in some of the depth insurance roles when it comes to Ben Hutton or Braden
Yeah.
Paschal, but really, it's the same unit that carries over. It was a strength last year, and I think that everyone's counting on it being a strength this year as well.
Yeah, and the only guy that they could potentially lose the next offseason is Martinez. He's the rest of them are signed until either 2025 or beyond. So this group could be around for a bit still. Martinez, we don't know. Well, he's 36, so I don't know what his future holds beyond this season, but it's probably a guy we'll talk about as a trade type thing later on. All right. Let's move to the goaltending. And this one was a little bit up in the air, depending on, we're really sure if Adin Hill was going to return, but he's back. Had a ridiculously good playoffs. Probably one of the reasons they won the cup. Logan Thompson, really good all of last season. And then, Robin Leonard looks like he's done. I don't know. His injury status is still up in the air if he's going to be back in the NHL or not. But the tandem looks like it's Hill and Thompson. So what do you think about that tandem going into the season?
Well, it's funny. I mean, uh, at the start of last season, everything was in flux, especially with the Leonard injury, and there were real questions over how the Vegas goaltending tandem was going to hold up. And I mean, this year, most fans seem to feel pretty good about the group with good reason based on
Mm-hmm.
last year's result. But there really isn't a whole lot more certainty, I have to say. Like, I mean, uh, Adin Hill was phenomenal in the playoffs, but I don't know if that's sustainable over a full regular season. I mean, he still hasn't really proven himself as a number one starter, and now he's got number one starter money. So I guess he'll get the opportunity to find out. And Logan Thompson, I mean, he again, as you mentioned, had a phenomenal first half of the season, but of course, injuries reared their ugly head, and he
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been healthy, so he wasn't able to be a factor at all in the playoff run. So there's still a lot of questions to be answered between the pipes, and I guess, I mean, Hill's your guy to start with, but we'll see what happens. The other thing about it is that um, that they don't have Laurent Brossois'
Hmm.
insurance as a third option anymore, whereas Yuri Patera, I think, is the guy that's going to get the number 3 job and be the starter in Henderson. And he's looked good in a couple of cups of coffee in Vegas, but doesn't really have the NHL experience that you would ideally like to trust in that situation. So, um, I mean, there's no reason to question the goaltending tandem right now, but I don't see any sure thing necessarily.
Yeah, it's a good point with Hill because I mean he was good in the playoffs, but he didn't really see much in the regular season. He's not proven as a starter, right? But
Yeah.
4.9 million now. So he's he's definitely gonna have to prove that
Sitting
he's
on the
worth
bench.
that big money, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's look at this team as a whole now in the division and the conference. Obviously, like you mentioned, they won the division and the conference this past season. So, are they still at that level? Looking at the Pacific, I mean, some teams got better. I mean, the Vancouver Canucks look like they could be a better team this season. You got the Edmonton Oilers obviously going to be there. LA, they added Dubois, so they're stronger. Where do you see them in this division and the conference right now?
Yeah, I mean, they've got the target on their back now, right? And so, I mean, I don't think you can I don't think you can make the argument that they've necessarily improved, and I'm not sure that they needed to improve. So
Mm-hmm.
they sort of have set the bar, and there's not much. I mean, other than Smith, there's not much reason to think they're going to be any different than they were last year. But yeah, absolutely. To your point, that you do have a number of teams that improve themselves this summer and are certainly going to make a push towards trying to challenge Vegas and knock them off the throne. And I mean, I think I think especially when you factor in the the physical toll that it took to win the cup. Like it's never easy to
Mm-hmm.
repeat, and the Colorado Avalanche will tell you that. I mean, just about every cup champion in recent memory will, maybe save for Tampa, but
Yeah.
so um, they've set the bar, but they've got a lot of work to do to try to retain. They say it's just as hard to win it again as it is to win it the first time.
Yeah. There's a reason it hasn't happened very often. The Lightning is the first time in a long time that a team was able to win back-to-back cups. So it probably won't happen again for a long time.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see how the Golden Knights do this season. All right, let's get to the fun part of the show, quick fire, and throw some questions at you. And a lot of these can be turned into articles pretty quickly as well. So let's start with the breakout stars. Pick a couple breakout stars for the Golden Knights this season.
Oof, tough one for us, but I mean, Paul Cotter had a mini breakout last year for us, scored 13 goals, and I mean, until it wasn't really a factor in the playoffs, didn't have to be.
Yeah.
So I see another step forward for him, and I could definitely, and he'll get every opportunity to take on a top 6 role, especially on the wing, and
Mm.
so he'd be one to look out for. And I'm expecting a pretty good camp out of Brendan Brisson. He was our first rounder a couple years ago, 2020, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And he's I think he's just about ready to make that next step and to challenge for an NHL role. And I think we're going to see that over the next couple weeks when Vegas breaks camp. And I think he's going to be a guy hungry for a role.
Yeah, he's probably one of their only prospects they've kept hold of without trading him. We'll see if he actually does play for the Golden Knights before they trade him too, but we'll see. All right, someone that needs to bounce back from last season.
Oof. Got to go with Thompson. I mean, it's really just the injuries, but
Mm-hmm.
he needs to prove himself all over again. He proved himself last year at the start of the year that he could take on number one duties, and now he has to prove that he can do it over the course of a season. And I mean, he won't necessarily be thrust right into that number one role, but this team is going to have difficulties if they don't have a healthy Logan Thompson between the pipes. So
Yeah, he's gonna have to, like you said, he have to prove himself again because he's also got another goaltender he's got to battle. And at the beginning of last season, he was probably the only guy. So with all the injuries happening,
a
so
great story. They're former middle school classmates, Adin Hill and Logan Thompson. So it's going to be pretty cool to see friendly rivalry emerge there.
yeah, that's for sure. All right, something that could be an X factor this season. It doesn't have to be a player. It can be something like the power play. What do you got?
Um, I would say the way the Bruce Cassidy's management, the way that he coaches, the structure that he's able to build, especially up front. I mean, the blue line is what they are, but Reilly Smith was a big part of the two-way identity of the team, and so Cassidy's going to want to not only be mindful of how to replace Reilly Smith's offense, but certainly find a complementary player that can be a 200-foot threat. And so I think that the way that he's able to bring that out of whoever might replace Smith is going to be a very interesting storyline to watch.
For sure, yeah. Cassidy going into his second season as coach, so we'll see how he kind of follows up a really good winning the Stanley Cup. I think it's the best you could do in your first season as a coach. So that's pretty good. We'll see if he can meet that same bar. All right, a rookie or a prospect that could surprise, make roster of training camp. You probably mentioned him already, but who you have?
I mean, I can't say there are a whole lot of candidates, but yeah, Brendan Brisson is arguably the club's top prospect, and a guy that in his I guess third year of pro hockey now is ready to challenge, ready to make that push. And I think that there is the opportunity for, I mean, whether it's a depth role or maybe someone in the top nine, but there is the opportunity for someone to crack through that forward corps, and I think he would be a guy to watch in the next little while.
Yeah, like you said, they don't have a lot of top end prospects, but he's definitely one of them. So we'll see how he does, if he can make the roster or make a push. You know, he's definitely capable. So we'll see. Yeah. All right. Overall, in this whole prospect pool, you have a prospect that everyone should be watching. Like I said, it's not the deepest pool, but they've got some interesting prospects. So who do you have that everyone should be watching?
I mean, I'm interested to see what our first rounder from this year, David Edstrom. He's a big physical center, and I think he's a guy that may not have high end talent, but could certainly fit within what Vegas is doing down the line. And I'm curious to see how he uses that physicality and really how he asserts himself within within the club's ranks. It'll be interesting to watch if he can sort of establish himself right off the bat.
Yeah, Edstrom was he was interesting because I think I had him ranked, like I thought he was going to go at maybe the end of the first round, and that's where he went to the last pick, but I wasn't sure where he was going to go. So that is interesting where they got him. So I'm excited to see what he can do this season as well, and in the future beyond that too. All right, who's going to lead the team in scoring and for forwards and on the defense?
I mean, Eichel's the obvious choice here, but I do think that I do think that the button's been pushed, so to speak. I think that I think that any discussion of his neck and recovery from injury, I think he's moved past that. I think that if he's not back to the pre-surgery Buffalo Sabre form that he was in, then he's certainly pretty much right there, especially after the playoffs. And so I think, I mean, he's the leader of this team. I know Stone wears the C, but this team's only going to go as far as their number one center takes them. And so I think Eichel's that guy. On the back end, Shea Theodore has been quietly their back end point guy for the last couple of years. And I mean, he and Pietrangelo are sort of a 1 and 1A in that regard, but I think it's still Theodore that is has a knack for putting up the points and is more of a free roamer on the back end as well. So there we go.
Yeah, those two good choices. I think Eichel probably will lead the scoring. I mean, Marchessault could be there as well, but yeah, Eichel's definitely the obvious choice there.
There's also been some trade rumors around Marchie, so
yeah. Well, on that note, a player that could be traded before the deadline here.
Oh, well, that segue worked out nicely.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you had mentioned Alec Martinez earlier, and I mean, I think I think he'd be hard to let go of, especially given his playoff resume. And not that Jonathan Marchessault is an easy guy to get rid of by any means, but I do think that if they realize that they're going to have trouble affording Marchessault's next contract, then unfortunately he might be the next original out the door. So I've got to go with Marchie on that one. I think that Martinez, there's still the hope that if the club does decide that they want to keep him around past this season, that there's the hope that his cap hit might actually go down based on age and other considerations. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens because, he's an unrestricted free agent this coming off season. So not going to be cheap. That's for sure. Okay, last one. And this is always fun to do. The bold prediction hot take for this season. What do you got?
Well, all right. I'm going to bring up another free agent and someone that we actually haven't talked about yet. Chandler Stevenson. He's sort of become he's become so talked about as underrated that he's close to overrated. But I think that he's an easy guy to forget about in the upcoming free agent class, and I think that as the Golden Knights look for more internal improvement offensively, I think he's a chief candidate and someone that could really up his own free agent stock for ahead of next summer. And so my bold prediction is that Chandler Stevenson becomes one of the trendy free agent names as we get close to summer. So as we get closer to July 1st.
Nice. Yeah, he's under a contract 2.7 million right now. That's like severely underpaid for what he's done. He's been cast as the first line center. I mean, I know he was kind of the first line center before Eichel came, right? And he's done really well. I mean, had a career high, not this past season before, 21 goals. So, and consistently those double digits. So he'd be a pretty interesting guy to see what happens again around the deadline too, because I don't know. I don't think they want to lose him, especially if they're in that playoff mode. You don't want to lose guys like that.
Okay. I don't think you're getting him for 2.75 next year, though.
No, probably closer to Barbashev's money, like $5 million, I'd say.
Potentially, yeah.
There's another guy though. Barbashev he's going to have some pressure on him because got that big contract now. So he's going to be interesting to see how he kind of does. I think he'll do well, but $5 million's a lot of money.
I mean, I'm fascinated to see if they keep that number one line together and if they can sort of reproduce the same chemistry that they had in the playoffs last year, because they were unreal last year.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But overall, the Golden Knights look like a team that could repeat as Stanley Cup champions. They're definitely built for it. They know how to win in the playoffs, so they're going to be one to watch this season. Even if they don't finish at the top of the division in the conference, they're still going to be tough to beat in the playoffs. So thanks, Ben, for coming on the show and previewing the Golden Knights. Before we get going here, give everyone your social media, see where everyone can find your stuff.
Oh, sure. At Real Ben Fisher, if you want to check it out. And I mean, also just search me up on the Hockey Writers and you'll see a whole bunch of fun Cup Championship content. And I mean, not the most exciting summer, but a lot of preview content coming your way too. So,
all right. Yeah, make sure you're checking out thehockeywriters.com for all Golden Knights coverage from Ben and from the other writers at the Hockey Writers. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel, give this video a like, and throw the comments in the comment section below. You can answer all those quick fire questions yourself, and and give us your feedback. So and also we're rolling out these preview shows every day, so make sure checking them all out if you want. And until next time, we'll see you on another Hockey Writers Roundtable.
Thanks, guys.